This week, guys, we are moving on to linebacker. Who is your greatest college football linebacker of all time? And I want to specify once again, people, this is based on their college career. We had a comment on YouTube that I really appreciated. They were talking about who was the greatest running back of all time that we did last week or a couple weeks ago. Can't even remember anymore. But they talked about how my pick for Reggie Bush wasn't good because he didn't have a pro career, and the Barry Sanders pick was better because he was the best professional running back of all time. That's great, but we're not considering their pro careers. So
I have to, though.
Do what?
Barry Sanders have one good season. My goodness.
Get
out of here, Mark.
So we're only focusing on their college careers. So who wants to start? Linebacker.
I think Matt does.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Give it a shot because I'm going with a former OU legend. I'm not sure if you guys have heard this guy, and me and Mason were talking off pod about this, but it's a really difficult thing to pick on the defensive side of the ball, right? When you're picking offensive players, it's all about the stats, the huge accolades. Defense is very different and different decades, right? This is more of a high octane offenses that we see nowadays versus the 80s and 90s, right? So I went back in time to the early 2000s, OU's last national championship, and I had to go with my boy, Rocky Calmus, one of the all-time OU linebackers. And it was pretty tough. I know someone on this pod copied me and went with another OU linebacker, so we'll get to him in a second, but got to get to my boy, Rocky. 3-time first all-team Big 12 selection, 2-time All-American, and he was one that really led OU to that national championship where they blanked Florida State in the Orange Bowl in 2000. So won the Buckus and Lambert Awards his senior year in 2001 as the nation's top linebacker. But again, forever will be known for leading that Sooner defense in 2000. Again, our last time that we won a national championship. Again, it was predicated on defense. That's why I love so much of what BV is doing. Rocky Calmus, all-time great. He fits all the criteria that Mason's looking for. He's got the accolades. He's got the national championship. He's got the longevity. Now, I saw some of his stats. The biggest stat that stood out to me, he is OU's leader in tackle for losses. That's pretty nasty. That's my boy, Rocky Calmus.
You missed out on one key fact about Rocky that has to be mentioned.
Go ahead.
He is the pride of Jinx America. A state champion, Jinx Trophy.
Love it.
I totally saw that too.
Mark.
That was on my list. I totally forgot to mention it. Man,
if we're not including college or pro.
No, it's
then
not
we're
high school.
certainly
It's
not
high
including his Jinx accolades.
We have to. We have to. Both sides of the ball. He was a monster, a menace to society on Coach Trimble's early or late 90s teams. He was a menace. All right. We'll go. Yeah,
I want to go next because I got the guy who took over for Rocky Calmus. Okay. And the Sooners didn't lose a step in their pep. All right. And that's why he's my undeniable best linebacker ever. And his name is Teddy Lehman. Okay. He played in that 2000 BCS national championship as well. And he was also a huge reason why they went back to the national championship in 2003. He's 2-time first team All Big 12, unanimous All-American in 2003, consensus All-American in 2002, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year 2003, Dick Butkus Award, Chuck something award,
Bednair.
And the second, yeah, I know.
You're all good.
And then the second round draft pick for the Lions. And the dude had an incredible career at OU. And that's why he's my undeniable.
That's a great pick. Mark, do you want me to go or do you want to finish it off?
You know what? I'll just go. Let's make this an OU trio because for some reason, Matt and Patrick decided to play the fan service card with OU linebackers and didn't pick the best one. Obviously, my pick is Brian Bosworth. He was a 3-time Big 12 or Big 8, first team all selection, 84 as a freshman, 85 as a sophomore, 86 as a junior. He was a two-time Butkus Award winner, 85 and 86, a 2-time All-American, 85, 86, and he led the Sooners to the national championship in 85. He simply said dominated football when he was at the college level. Obviously, his body broke down later. There were probably some performance enhanced reasons for that, but the guy flat out broke running backs when he played football. Sometimes you don't really need the stats. Sometimes what you need is, what do you think of when you think of college football linebackers? If it's not the Boz's haircut, if it's not him in that freaking neck roll, I don't know what college football you've been watching. Additionally, there's leaving a legacy, right? Obviously, the Boz was controversial, yeah? But he understood the value that he brought to the field and to the school and to media, and tried to monetize that value, tried to get around monetizing that value in a way that set a standard for guys that we're seeing carried out now. This is the weakest addition to my argument, but I think it's cool.
It carries weight for us, that's for sure.
And left a legacy for the guys moving forward. Everyone knows the Boz. That's why the Boz is my undeniable best college linebacker of all time.
There it is. Good job,
All right.
Mark.
Well,
Every time, Matt.
I'm gonna wrap us up. I really like all three of those picks for obvious reasons, but I gotta go outside the program, and I am going with the one other program that might have more accolades and big name power than OU, and that's Alabama. Go back in time with me a little bit. Back in the 80s, before you even knew what a quarterback sack was, before it was a registered stat, there was a guy who was causing havoc and should hold the NCAA record for sacks in a season by the biggest margin possible. And that's Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas played for the Alabama Crimson Tide in the 80s. As a senior, the 6'4", 230-pound Thomas made 39 tackles for loss. 27 were sacks. 27 sacks in a season and 44 quarterback hurries. In his career, 204 tackles, 68 of them for loss, 52 total sacks in his career. He was no Alabama player has come within 12 of Thomas's mark of 39 tackles for loss in a season. That is an Alabama team that has had 23 consensus All-Americans on the field since Derek Thomas graduated. He was named an All-American and won the Butkus Award in 1988. So I've given you his longevity. He's a 4-year starter. I've given you the stats, and I've given you the postseason accolades with the Butkus Award. Where my argument falls short, although Alabama has won tons of national titles, they did not win one while Derek Thomas was part of the Alabama Crimson Tide. However, I think his stats make up well enough for that argument, because Derek Thomas was voted by Alabama fans as the #1 greatest player in Alabama Crimson Tide history.
Wow.
That says something about what that player meant to not even arguably the best college football program in history. He is chosen as the best player on the greatest program in history. They are. I love Oklahoma, but it's a fact. Oklahoma did invent winning, but Alabama invented winning national titles. So they also claim a bunch of BS titles, but we're not going to talk about that right now. That is why Derek Thomas is the undeniable greatest linebacker in college football history. His pro career wasn't bad, but we're not talking about that. College football history. Let us know on Twitter who you think is the greatest linebacker in college football history. Tweet us at Program Guys with a Z. Comment on our YouTube channel, Program Guys Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Who do you think got it right? Who got it wrong? Anybody on the pod right now have a problem with anything anyone said? I would, if I had to choose anyone besides Derek, I'd go with Brian Bosworth. So that's just my pick.
Biased.
I'm very excited
biased?
I'm very excited to see naysayers be like, okay, well, obviously they're just picking the OU guys. So
Dude,
that'll be fun.
It's going to be very interesting to see what people say, because you could and we did. You can make an argument for any of the 4 guys that we said. And you
All
can make
different
it
decades too.
Yeah,
So,
and you can make it very
most of them.
easily.
too.
Like these guys are all freaks of nature. Matt, sorry I interrupted you.
No, I was just gonna say honorable mention by Ryan Tyson. He texted me this earlier. Manti Te'o. You know how Ryan is with always mentioning his girlfriend.
Did he
I had to go with Manti Te'o on this one.
I don't think he did.
One of the most decorated
Matt, is Manti
linebackers.
Te'o's girlfriend in the room with you right now? Is like she making you say that?
Well, listen. One of the biggest scandals in history, but one of the best linebackers, Ryan Tyson. I don't know why he has that connection, but Ryan does like talking about his girlfriend all the time. So.
Good Lord. Okay.
So excited for him to listen to this.